So I'm going to talk about the first time I was in a bar. And it was about 3 or 4 years ago. Let me preface it by saying that I was with my husband for about 30 years. And so now I'm newly single and entering the dating world for the first time about 4 years ago. So I was decided to meet someone, and the person who I was meeting was the owner of a bar. And we were spending time together, but he had to go to work, so I decided to go with. Again, I am not familiar with the bars and bar scenes because that's just not something that my husband and I frequented. So it just wasn't my thing. So I don't even think I've really been in one. If I had, it was maybe once, 30 years ago. I don't know. I'm in this bar, and since the owner is working, I'm not going to bother him or anything like that. So I decide to just, I don't know, sit at the bar and just kind of hang out and watch. And I'm a people watcher, so it was really cool for me to just sit there and watch how people interact at a bar. Now, it wasn't extremely busy. I think it was a weekday, so it wasn't really busy, but there were people there. So as I'm sitting at the bar, there were a couple guys who came up beside me and asked if I wanted something to drink. And I'm like, oh no, I'm just drinking water. I'm not a drinker either. So I'm just taking in the sights. And then a young man comes to sit beside me and we start talking. Obviously, I'm a talker, so that wasn't a big deal to me. I talk to everybody. So we're just talking and talking and talking. And maybe about an hour or so goes by. Mind you, I was going to be there for about 2.5 hours while the owner was working. I'm just sitting there kind of, wasting time and nothing else to do. So as we're talking, this guy kind of asked, what are you doing? What do you do? And I tell him what I do and my business and all this other good stuff, and having a really nice time. This guy's ordering drinks and I'm like, great, more money for the owner, and ask if I want something to drink. And I'm like, oh no, I'm not a drinker. I've got a bottled water. I know. And just having a nice time. And he kind of asks me, what am I doing later? And I'm like, oh, nothing, just hanging with a friend, because at that time we were friends. I was just, kind of getting to know the owner and things like that and see if we wanted things to go further. So we were really just friends. So no big deal. Before I know it, almost 2.5 hours has passed and we're still just sitting there at the bar talking and having a nice time. Nothing serious, nothing, just small talk in my opinion. But again, I'm just stalling time until the owner's done. So no big deal. And then towards the end of the night, as he's closing up the bar, this guy looks at me and was like, hey, so, what are you doing? And I'm like, I told you I'm hanging with a friend this weekend or this week, and that's pretty much it. And he was like, oh, would you like to go back to my hotel? He was in town for business for a few weeks. And I'm like, why? In my mind, I'm like, why would I want to go back to your hotel? This doesn't make sense to me. And then I'm like, no, I'm good. I told you I was here with a friend anyway, and he was like, well, you don't have to be. You can come stay with me. And again, it's not sinking in. I'm like, what in the world? What are you talking about? And then I'm like, what? In my mind, I'm thinking, oh my gosh. So I get up, excuse myself, and go to the restroom, and I text my brother like, why is this guy wanting me to go to his room with him? I just was saying hi to him. We just talked. Or actually, I think I called my brother. And then my brother's like, well, how long have you been talking to him? I'm like, well, I'm just sitting at the bar stalling time until my friend's done with his work. He said, well, how long have you talked to him? I'm like, I don't know, 2.5 hours. And he's like, you've talked to the same guy for 2.5 hours at a bar? He thinks that he's in there and that you're interested. And I'm like, but no, I'm just sitting here having small talk with him. What the heck does that mean? And yeah, I learned lesson number 1. Do not have a long conversation in a bar with someone, or it appears as if you're really interested. And though I'm not naive, I was naive to that. So I felt silly. So I go back out hoping that he was gone. And of course he was not. And he asked again, would you like to come back to the hotel with me and just chill out? And I said, I'm so sorry. I apologize. I'm just, not interested. But thank you. I appreciate, your conversation and things like that. I felt terrible. I really felt terrible, but that was all my fault. And that's because I just had no experience of what goes on in a bar. Not that it was a bad thing, but I felt silly, especially at my age. But you live and you learn. So ladies, don't do what I did.